Discraft keeps making moves. Kristen confirms she has a broken toe, but it doesn't stop her from competing. Some major notes that don't involve sod, and even more this week in disc golf. We're back covering all things disc golf from the past week. I'm Swiss Cheese, and most importantly, I'm just one half of the disc golf world. That one disc golf YouTube channel that simply can't be stopped, despite critics of our titles, a ban from touring, and now 2 full-time jobs taking up our time. Still hasn't slowed us from continually pumping out content, tending this year's Worlds, and by the support of many of you listening, just surpassed 30,000 subscribers in the short time since the debut of This Week in Disc Golf to our channel back when Las Vegas was still an Elite Series event. Allow me the time to say thank you for the support, and that goes out to the haters also. Each of you has continued to push us that much more. And now that the platitudes are all over, let's get back to the European swing in this week's major. The growth of the European market and its importance to the sport of disc golf could not be more evidently displayed in this latest swing and the current major push. Crowds, professionalism, and dollars has attracted many of the game's major companies' expansion into Europe. And with Discraft's latest partnership announcement with OTB Europe, they aren't just the latest, but possibly the most exciting. Discraft thus far has been admittedly late to the party, but the manufacturer who just owned the past offseason with some of the most marketable names not only established a foothold in Europe, but also attached themselves to the Ale compound, home of the second best course in the world, and just importantly, OTB Europe, allowing a far easier path to get their plastic into the market, offers further exposure of the brand, and inevitably improvements to their roster, which has yet to land a big-name European talent thus far. But if you guys don't believe me, just hear it from Bob Julio's own mouth.
Some of our pinch points are getting product over there. Our costs are really high. We don't have a warehouse over there. We don't have distribution set up properly. This opens up the door for us to sponsor a lot more tournaments, a lot more players. Hopefully we can, really line out a European team next year for Discraft. We can't do that until we can get product over there, and that's the first step.
Most would expect the European roster to be gradual through youth signings, but with this ability now to leverage OTB Europe, it does lay quite the framework to be able to make a big splash this upcoming offseason if they choose to. Some of you might be getting all antsy in your pantsy about the prospect of Kristen Lott being on Discraft. I wouldn't go that far, but there's still plenty of European talent in the market to be had. More importantly in that cut that most would simply brush off was the establishment of sponsored events. Discraft already sponsors some of the largest name and most notable stops in the US. Them now being able to take that same model overseas to Europe for future events, and Worlds for that matter, helps the entire game, even if it means more Heinhold behind them. Yet this all coincides with the brand's expanding collaboration efforts with ThoughtSpace and Climo lineup, to name a few. Not to mention hiring former sponsored players and charitable fundraisers for friends in the sport like Ben Askren, already setting themselves apart from other major brands in the sport with their marketing and player-friendly deals, as one of the biggest companies ascending even further. Yet ultimately this partnership seems to be beneficial, as OTB Europe and Ale are now attached to one of the top brands, with plenty of exclusives and big disc drops upcoming. Only further helps OTB continue to grow, as they have sponsored Major this year, another Elite Series, Go Throw, and has positioned themselves further in the market with an OTB West and East in the States, and now Sweden also with Discraft attached. With the tour's return to the hallowed Song Festival grounds for the European Disc Golf Festival, it allowed Kristen Lott the opportunity for some home cooking and a checkup on her toe, which only confirmed everyone's suspicions that it was broken, knocking her from the Superstar Challenge, which didn't hurt the Estonian team's chances as they got the victory anyways despite her gone. But this did put into question her participation in the major held in her home country, that only provided the weight of a nation, those running the event, and the DGBT on her shoulders. Yet through all of that, and despite her doctor's recommendations, defiantly went on to say,
I made the decision to still compete, so I'm competing.
After that, the start of her round had some wondering if it was the best choice. Kristen's putting woes continued and caught in 4K like a cheating CEO at a Coldplay concert, missing 5 C1 putts on the front half, 3 coming on the first 4 holes, only to 3-putt after 2 OB strokes and 7 from a quadruple bogey, as she found herself in 20th place after round 1. 7 strokes behind a breakout performance from Latvian Cynthia Kleesbaga, who shot 72 points ahead of her rating, becoming the lowest rated player to ever lead a major. Lot returned the next day like a boss, and it wasn't just the shades, as she shot the hot round 6 under with 9 total birdies and climbed the leaderboard up 18 spots into second place. Currently finds herself only a stroke behind leader Missy Gannon, and right back in the event heading into moving day, which is crowded with other Elite Series winners and some of the current best in Cadence Burge, Silva Sarnen, and last major winner Evelina Salonen, all right there at 7 under with Kristen. MPO was a birdie sprint that has some already critical of the play and course selection for a major. And since it is a major, has Isaac Robinson currently tied for the lead with one looking for his first major in Anthony Barella at 13 under. Yes, you heard me correctly, 13 under, which will undoubtedly not be the hot round of the event either. Right behind them is Ricky Wysocki, who's not only looking to snap his 7-year major drought, but also searching for new shoelaces and that first victory on the 2025 season. Nicholas Antala, who's tired of being a bridesmaid at majors, and a couple of young guns in Cal Lundqvist and Luke Taylor find themselves currently tied right there with Ricky. And though 3 rounds remain and plenty of scoring to be had, still should not be surprised some big names climb into the top 10 or higher. Sure, sprints aren't for everyone, which has some criticism of the choice of event, course being too easy, even the name choice of festival, and something out of the control altogether of those running the event in the broadcasting and marketing of the major. This all following the immense efforts made surrounding sod on the grounds that has not been an issue despite concerns, professional efforts that continues to set new standards in the sport and separates this stop apart from the others. Add its metropolitan setting, financial support from the country unlike other events, solid attendance, nearly 4,000 alone for the showcase, and the outspoken support of nearly every pro who has attended. Shit, it even has a petting zoo. Still, this stop continues to be criticized unlike others in our sport, and blatantly not held to the same standards of other majors just this year. Yes, people were critical of Champions Cup being a golf track and not wooded, but apart from that, where were these same talking points? I understand all of this event's optics and professionalism seems to be force-fed to the consumers, but it doesn't erase the fact it's one of, if not the best stop in the game. And that might scare many fans, as it appears to lap most of the Americans' best stops optics. As it appears Europe just might be the ones to transition the sport to the heights not found here in the US. And that should be okay. The festival checks a lot of boxes that can only be found in disc golfers' dreams for the moment in the States. And instead of embracing that and all that encompasses it, we want to be critical of the optics of play and coverage?
My opinion and Gary's opinion watching it today, it was boring, Ezra. It was it was unfortunately very boring to watch. There just didn't seem like any holes or any shots that were really entertaining. And maybe if it was,
still continually ignoring the spectator experience altogether that is paramount to this stop, and erases what should be talked about instead, which is the delay of post-round coverage for a week. Tour Life wants to debate the first day live coverage needing to hook its audience to grow the sport, completely bypassing what post coverage has done for disc golf years prior, as live coverage would not have been available without the efforts of its predecessors in post-round coverage. Yet this major's post-round coverage won't see the light of day till pros are in Finland prepping for Worlds. I understand a delayed coverage to help promote subscriptions, but still damages the game, especially waiting a full week to get the coverage to the masses, but a week diminishes the efforts made by those in Estonia, and PDGA for that matter, simply for dollars. But yeah, let's just talk about the Rockstar layout that is boring on coverage instead. Guys, we're nearing the end of the month, and most importantly, the board election is heating up. Candidate Matthew Rothstein's latest Facebook post highlighting the current board's conflict of interest and our lack of addressing it saw some of disc golf names chiming in. You had former PDGA Executive Director Brian Graham, other former PDGA staff member in Zach Schaefer, and some of the most well-known TDs in Jeff Jacquard, Steven Story, and Rob Bolin in agreement. Rothstein has made some waves this election run-up by not only creating a Bill of Rights, pushing for more transparency unheard of in modern PDGA, and an effort to eliminate conflict of interest that has infiltrated the board. Someone with similar principles on addressing some of the issues we currently face, and the balls enough to say it out loud, partly forced us to sit down with the candidate ourselves. And after so, now has my full endorsement. And that's coming candidly from a non-PDGA member who's unable to vote. But listen, don't take my word for it. Instead, tune in this Saturday when we will release our interview and you can hear it from the candidate himself. And if you guys don't want to wait that long, join the Patreon for as low as $1 and check out the unedited version out for yourself. Now, let's get to some quick hitters, and I promise not to include tee shots off the concert stage, any more walkout videos, or tees on 18. Because if you guys are watching your socials, you've had plenty of that already. Ricky had his laces blow out during his round 1, still didn't prevent him from landing on lead card. Simon Lizotte snagged an ace on day 2. Brody might not rate trophies any longer, but he can't help himself with EDGF's championship trophy. Albert Tom releases some explosive bazooka merch and gives some shades to Ella. Some photos of the petting zoo, dinner dates, and tossing frisbees in a square. The Rathbuns honeymooned in Paris before heading to Estonia, and Luke Sampson's out building a tiny home. And guys, if any of you have the means, go out and help out teenage talent Julia Fours to be able to attend this year's Throw Pink Championship. And guys, that wraps up this week in disc golf. Shout out to all of those on the Patreon and all of you who have stayed this long for me to thank you. And like always, if you've enjoyed and not subscribed, make sure to do so. And if you haven't already, hit that like button, comment, and share.